Welcome, everyone. I think we can go ahead and get started. We don't have a big crowd today. I think Friday afternoon is a little difficult for a lot of folks to make it, um, but anyways, I'm really glad that those of you who came were able to show up today. Today's mass advising meeting should help to answer some of your questions, especially if you're thinking about applying to the program or getting ready to graduate or other things. I can help to provide answers to those kinds of things and to answer a lot of frequently asked questions for students in the exercise science program. So the main reasons for this meeting are to learn about the people and places you can go for help along the way while you're getting your degree, learn more about the program, to get help with your scheduling of classes, um, to help you with the admissions process for getting into the program, to help you get ready to graduate, and then finally to get answers to questions, both yours and the questions that you didn't even think to ask, but someone else in the room might ask, and you might find that very valuable information. So to start off, I'd like to talk about some recent changes with the program. Um, this is with the application process to the program. How many of you in here right now are getting ready to apply for admission or who are applying this semester for admission? A few of you? Okay. Um, as you may know by looking at the website that we have for application, we no longer require a fitness test. We no longer require the job shadow forms. We do require that you still do job shadows, but you no longer have to have the forms for that. You can just go more casually and do those shadows and record the information on your own without the form. So you don't need signatures or things like that. In fact, you no longer require that your shadows get approved by your advisor. You can just go do the shadow on your own without any fuss. It does have to be related to your major. It has to be related to exercise science. So you can't do a shadow for somebody who's a physician assistant, for example, or a surgeon or something like that. I think those are great experiences, but they can't count as a shadow for your application to the program. The shadows that you do need to be related to exercise science. Are there any questions about job shadows? Okay. Um, we no longer require the check sheet, so there's no more paper, anything. No hard copies of anything has to be turned in anymore. Everything's done electronically. So to summarize it, there's really just two things that you have to do, and that can all be done from your computer. You have to do the application itself, which is online. You just click the link on the application page, fill in the application material, and submit it at the end. And then the second part is you need to participate in the application workshop, which includes submitting a resume at the very end. Okay? Any questions about the application process or the changes I've mentioned here? Okay. There have been some questions recently about getting independent study. Independent study is ESS 324. It is not listed as a required course on your program, but it can be used in your program to help replace some of the requirements. So let me explain how that will work. Most people who do independent study get credit for obtaining a certification in their field. So they would get like a personal trainer certification or a strength training certification, a group fitness instructor certification, something like that. We provide a list of the regularly accepted certifications. However, you can ask for something off that list. If you know you're getting a certification or you recently got a certification related to exercise, and you want to check and see if it'll work, just run it by me and I'll check it out and see if it'll qualify for the credit. When you have taken a certification that qualifies for the credit, we then give you credit for something called credit for prior learning. And this means that if you've got a certification that's still valid, but you've not done anything with it for credit at UWL, and it's just sitting in your drawer or in a picture frame on your wall someplace, and it's just sitting there, you just need to send me a copy of it. And you can do that by email and just say, I'd like to use this for independent study. And then I process it for you. Next thing you know, you've got 2 credit hours on your transcripts for having done that certification. This is 300 level credit hours. It's ESS 324, so it counts towards the 300 level credits that you need to graduate. So if you're worried about being a little shy on 300 to 400 level credits, this can be a way to help bridge that gap. It also can be used to replace 2 ESS 100 courses. As you know, you're required to take 6 ESS 100 courses sometime during your degree. This can replace 2 of them, and this course is repeatable once for credit, which means you could potentially replace 4 ESS 100s if you got 2 certifications. Does that make sense? This class does not count against your semester load. This just appears on your transcripts once you've submitted your materials to me. It doesn't cost any tuition. So you could take it like over the summer and it would appear on your transcripts, but you wouldn't have to pay summer tuition for it. It also doesn't have a letter grade, so it's just an S. So it's like the exercise classes, the ESS 100 classes. They just say pass, fail, or satisfactory or something like that. This is the same way. It just gives you an S showing that you got the credit, but does not affect your GPA. Any questions about taking independent study? Okay, some people also take independent study that's outside of a certification. They want to get independent study for doing something else besides that, like acting as a researcher's assistant. If there's a ESS professor doing research and you want to help with the project, you can get independent study credit for something like that as well. If something like that is interesting to you, please come to talk to me and we'll see what we can work out for you. Some other recent changes, well, things we're hoping to change in the near future at least. We've been working very hard on adding electives to the exercise science program. And right now, we're not exactly sure which way we're going to go with this, but I wanted to give you a heads up on what's coming around the corner. We're thinking about changing the exercise science program to either have a group of electives for the fitness and for the pre-professional tracks, or the direction that I'm personally a little more in favor of, but I don't know if the rest of the group's going to agree with me on it, is to eliminate the tracks and just make it the exercise science program without pre-professional or fitness. It's just the exercise science program. And within that, you would pick a specialty like physical therapy or athletic training or fitness or adapted, or there's several others that we want to put in there. And so there's a group of classes you would take for that specialty, then you would take some exercise science core classes, and then there would be some electives that you would take on top of that. At the end of the day, it wouldn't be that different from the course list that you have now. It would just give you a little more flexibility. So you're taking courses that are a little more relevant for the areas you want to go into, and dumping a few of the classes perhaps that might not fit in so well to what you're hoping to go into. So these are some things that are coming up. We're hoping that we might see them maybe by the end of this semester or the end of spring semester that's coming. We've also been talking about the possibility of dropping the application process altogether. Right now, that's being hotly debated. Some members of the exercise science group in the department really love the application process, and some people are like, it's just a hoop that people jump through and we don't really need it anymore. We just declare your major and that'll be it. So we're debating that back and forth right now. One thing that we are pretty much in agreement on is that we'd like to drop the reapplication requirement if you want to change tracks from fitness to pre-professional or from pre-professional to fitness. If you've gotten into one, what we're thinking about is just checking your records. If you want to switch, just handling that kind of between you and me, and I'll take care of it through the dean's office and get that switched over without making you reapply to the program um, or to the other track, which is the way it's done now. So that's probably going to switch this semester. And then we might be getting rid of the application process altogether starting maybe as soon as next semester, but we'll see. If the group really wants to keep it, we'll hold on to it for a little while. You should know, though, that the application process, we have removed already the competitive qualities to that application process. What that means to you is if you meet the minimums, we're letting you in. You don't have to beat somebody else out, and we don't have a cap on how many people we can accept. We've been working with the dean's office to take all comers who meet the minimum criteria for admission. And so far, we've been able to do that. So if you're applying this semester or next, thumbs up, because it's going to be a lot easier for you to get in than it has been for students in the past. If you meet the minimums that are listed on our website, you're going to do just fine. Any questions about that at all? Okay. Some people who can help you in the university. First of all, your ESS academic advisors. After your first year at UWL, you're assigned an ESS academic advisor. This will be a faculty or staff member who teaches in the exercise science program. And these people will then be your assigned advisor until you graduate. So they're going to be there to help you with scheduling your classes, with any problems you might be encountering, giving you advice on your major, on schools that you might want to apply to for graduate studies, things like that. In addition to your advisor, there's also me. I'm the exercise science program director. And I like to think of myself as your backup advisor. If your advisor's hard to meet with, if you've tried to go by and your schedule just doesn't match your advisor's schedule, or you go by and you had an appointment, but for some reason they weren't there, or some other problem comes up and it's really hard to meet with them, you can just, as a backup plan, meet with me. I'm in 129 Mitchell Hall, and if my door is cracked open, that means it's an open invitation. Without an appointment, you can just wander in and have a chat, okay? So I try to keep the door open as much as I can so people can just walk by and get problems taken care of. Okay, in the college and ESS department, there's also people who can help you. They can help you fill out forms, answer questions that you might have. There's all kinds of things that they might be able to assist you with. You might wonder who a professor is that's teaching a certain course, or how you can get into a class if it's listed as full, or other things like that. They can help with a lot of things like that. So getting to know the ESS department office and going by the office for the college can also be helpful. There's also the Academic Advising and Career Services office on campus, and you've probably been there or been by there already for your first year of advising, but they also have a website that you can go to and get extra information. They are very, very good at helping you find your directions that you need to follow, getting into the right places, filling out the right forms, knowing where the right offices are, that sort of thing. It's helpful to know that the exercise science program is not officially a major, it's a subset of a major. So technically your major is exercise and sports science, the same as the name of our department. The emphasis is exercise science and then the track is either fitness or pre-professional. And depending on which track you're in, you're going to take a few different courses. Everybody takes general education, and that's in this major or in other majors across campus. Everybody's required to take the 43 credit hours of general education and fulfill the classes in all the categories that you see when you look at your WINGS report. But in exercise science, you also have an ESS core of classes, and both tracks of students take that core. And then there are courses that are specific to fitness, and then there's a different set of courses that are specific to the pre-professional tracks. The main thing to remember about the fitness track is that it is for students who are considering a career in the fitness industry. Most students who follow this track go to work right away after they finish their bachelor's degree. In the pre-professional track, the primary focus is to get you into graduate school. So most students in the pre-professional track go pretty soon, if not immediately, into a graduate program, the most popular of which is physical therapy. But I have a lot of students going into athletic training, into physician assistant programs, to medical school, to dentistry, all kinds of different things that are medically related. A lot of students use the pre-professional track as a launching pad to get into those programs. But physical therapy is the largest one. These are interchangeable as well. I've had some pre-professional students who ended up working in the fitness industry, and I've had some students in the fitness track who went in to become a physical therapist or to go to medical school or something like that. So you can flip-flop those around. It's just an easier path if you're going into the fitness industry to take the fitness track, and it's an easier path if you're going to graduate school to take the pre-professional track. This is a sample of the course list that's required for getting through the exercise science degree. What you'll see here, this is for the fitness track, and you'll see here there's a number of classes that are required in the core. And even though this is the fitness track, it's helpful to note that this core will be the same for both tracks. Up here at the top, you'll see ESS 100s and ESS 116. All of those count towards the physical activity 6 credit hours that are required. Most people take 6 ESS 100s and just spread them out evenly over their college career, but you can take them in bigger clumps, or you can take, as you can see down here as this note indicates, you can take the independent study class that I talked about earlier today that will replace 2 of those classes. This first aid and CPR class, you can test out of that. If you already have those certifications, you can test out of it, and then you don't have to take the course. You can just get it checked off and get credit on your transcripts for it without having to actually take it during a semester. Information you can see to the right of that indicates that if you contact Mr. Guy Hurling in the Dean's office, he can help set that up for you. It's also helpful to note that ESS 368, which is the strength training techniques and programs class, has been changed, so it's now only required for the fitness track. You are permitted to take it in the pre-professional track, but it is no longer a requirement in that track, so you can skip it if you would like, if you're in the pre-professional track. This field experience class is required by both tracks, and I wanted to just point out, if you look to the right of that, it says repeatable for credit, maximum of 6, which means you could take that class twice if you wanted to. Most students get a pretty high grade in there, so I've had a lot of students over the years use it as a GPA booster. If they needed to get just a little higher grade point average, you can repeat it for credit and a letter grade by taking it a second time. So that'd give you 2 3-credit hour A's rather than 1. And if you're going to be doing volunteer work anyway in exercise, it's not a bad way to get a little extra credit and a little GPA boost. The individualized option is a fancy way of saying a build your own minor for students who are in the pre-professional track. In the pre-professional track, you are required to have a minor or an equivalent to a minor in order to graduate. In the fitness track, you don't have to have a minor. It's completely optional. But the pre-professional group needs to have a minor. And you can do the individualized option instead of a minor. It's the equivalent of a minor. And you see there's a lot of requirements that are listed here. I want to boil this down to one quick idea. All of these things are already in the exercise science program, and the dean's office lets you double dip. There's only one thing that the individualized option requires that's not part of the pre-professional track, and that's a 3-credit hour class at the 300 level or higher that's not in ESS. Okay? It can't already be part of your program. Like you can't say, oh, I'm taking Bio 312. That's a 300 level class outside of ESS. That's already counted in your program. The 3-credit hour class I'm talking about has to be something new, something that you're not already taking as part of your degree. So a 3-credit hour class outside of ESS, not already on your list. If you take that, you can get the individualized option, and then you don't have to have a minor at all, which means you could skip about 15 credit hours of coursework at UWL and graduate. That's like a whole semester early graduation. So a lot of students have been interested in that. There's also a lot of students who just want the minor. There's an interesting area like nutrition or business or something else that they really want to develop. And a minor can really be useful to you in your future career. So think that over carefully, talk to your advisor or talk to me about it, and make your best choice. But if you choose the individualized option, for most people, that gets you out about a semester earlier than if you took a regular formal minor. Any questions about this at all? Okay, let's press on then. This is a sample degree plan for the pre-professional track, and you can download this from the exercise science website. There's also one for the fitness track there. And so this can be really, really helpful if you're planning your semesters out. You can see what's offered during what semester, and you can see what we recommend for each semester. One of the problems that I run into with students towards the end of their career when they're getting ready to graduate is if they took any of these out of sequence, like they're trying to take a sophomore level class from this list during their senior year. Sometimes those courses conflict. We have to kind of stagger when we give courses. So frequently, freshman level courses are taught during the same times and days as sophomore courses are taught. And the sophomore courses are frequently taught at the same times and days that junior level courses are taught, and so on. So if you take courses meant for your junior year during your senior year, that can cause a conflict. So watch out for that really carefully. Switching between one semester, like if you see something that's recommended for your fall of your sophomore year, but you can't quite fit it in, you could take it during your spring of your sophomore year and take a spring class in the fall. You could flip-flop them. And people do that all the time. They'll flip-flop to an adjacent semester. And that's typically not a problem as you're getting through your degree. We talked a little bit about this first aid CPR class. We talked a little bit about the ESS 100s already, and we've talked a little bit about the strength and conditioning class already. So I'm going to skip through those then. Some general scheduling advice: use the UWL timetable and look at either the semester in which you're currently enrolling in classes, or use a previous semester to plan ahead. So like, for example, if spring semester classes aren't posted yet on Wings, you can look at spring semester from last year to see what classes were offered and when. Most of the time, most departments roll that over year to year. So what they offered last year would be the same as they offer this next year. So you can use that as a guide to plan out your semesters. Look at prerequisites really carefully. If you don't plan the prerequisites out quite right, you may find out that there's a class you want to take, but you have to take another class first. And if you didn't plan that out, that can slow things down for you. It's really helpful to come up with several backup courses if something's full or a conflict in some way, that you've got some alternate classes that you can put in. It's helpful also to remember, especially for the fitness track, that after being admitted, you will probably need at least 3 semesters to finish your courses. That's because there's a group of classes that you can only take after you're admitted, and some of those conflict with each other. So in order to get all of those classes, and usually you have to have 3 semesters. So that's one of the reasons why we strongly suggest that you apply for admission during your sophomore year. After your freshman year, you should be qualified, and then you can apply right away. And getting into the program as early as possible is really useful to you. So you can see the admission prerequisites for graduate school by looking at individual websites. So let's say you wanted to go to physical therapy school and you wanted to look at Madison for that. You can go to their website and they list prerequisite courses for admission. I think that all of those courses are already part of the pre-professional track, but some universities have physical therapy programs that ask for a class that we don't include. So I would recommend pick 4 or 5 schools that you think you might apply to, look at the requirements for getting into those, and then if there are classes that aren't already on your list, just build them in. Just take them on the side, kind of. Does that make sense? Then you're qualified to get into any school that you might apply to. Some stats that are helpful to know: before we made the recent changes, the application percentage was somewhere between, well, it was somewhere around 75%. Lately, it's 100% because of the changes the dean helped us make. The GPA of admitted students in the fitness track, the average is around 3.3, and in the pre-professional track, it's around 3.55. In both tracks for graduate school admission, usually we see that graduate schools ask for you to have at least a 3.0 to get into graduate schools, but if there's a lot of competition for admission, then the higher the better for GPA. Most students can get into programs with a 3.3 or higher. If it's a really tough graduate program like physical therapy can be, then something over a 3.5 is strongly recommended. At UWL, for the PT program admissions this last year, they had a 3.7 was the average GPA of admitted students. Now that's the average, so some were below and some were above. So if it's not a 3.7, you still could get in. It's just, that's the average. You want to get as close to that or above it as much as possible to ensure a spot in a good graduate program. Medical schools and PA schools have similarly high GPAs, so you want to boost those numbers up as high as you can while you're in your undergraduate program. The application contents are the same kinds of things you would typically put on a resume. You have to do 2 job shadows, but you can do more. Research, typically in the sophomore year or by the sophomore year, students haven't done any yet. Most students who apply leave that section blank. But by the time you graduate, it's nice to have 1 or 2 on there. It just opens some doors for you. Membership in clubs, usually there's 1 or 2 clubs that students are a member of. Certifications, most students have 3, and they're the ones that you get taking the ESS Red Cross certifications class. And then usually people will have volunteer and professional experiences that they could put on their application, kind of like they would put on a resume. The more they're related to exercise, the better. Although we do give you credit for ones that are not related to exercise, like if you're a server at a restaurant or a bartender, or you've been cutting lawns or something like that. All of those things can give you some credit, but the more it's related to exercise science, the more credit you get. Applications for admission, if you're getting ready to apply, the first thing you need to do is think about qualifying for admission. To qualify, you have to first declare your major. If you're a business major and you're trying to get into the exercise science program, you have to change your major officially to exercise science before you apply. You can still do it. There's still time. You can do it this week if you want to. But you have to make sure that your major is exercise science and that you've selected the track that you're interested in applying to, and that's officially declared before you submit all your materials, or before we'll look at all your materials. You have to have at least 30 college credits completed. Most students get that during their freshman year, but some students come in with AP credit or transfer credit, and they don't have to be here for very long before they apply. You have to have a UWL GPA that's listed as CUM GPA on your transcripts. That has to be at least 2.75 for the fitness track, or at least a 3.0 for the pre-professional track. You have to have a biology class, and you have to have at least a C in it. So most students in the fitness track take Bio 103, and most students in the pre-professional track take 105, and you have to have at least a C. You have to have at least a C in HPR 105. As I mentioned, the fitness test is gone, but you still have to do the application workshop with Career Services that culminates in your submitting your resume, and then you're all set with that. Any questions about any of those items? Okay. The Career Services Workshop is asynchronous and on Canvas, which means you can take it from any place on the planet where you have an internet access. So you could take it on a laptop or on an iPad in your apartment or your dorm room. You could take it from home, any place at all. You could, if you haven't done it already, it usually doesn't take a lot of time, but you do have to register for it on Canvas, and the link to get into it is on our application web page. Register for it, go through all the different sections on it, and then at the very end, submit a copy of your resume on Canvas, and then you're all set with that. Any questions about the workshop? Okay. So you should view all the contents and submit your resume as part of the workshop, and then that's all set. As you can see here, the application check sheet is now gone. We don't require that anymore, so you don't have to meet with your advisor. You don't have to get signatures. You don't have to turn anything in at my office. Everything's done electronically now. So you do the online application form and the workshop, and those are the only 2 things you have to do to apply. The application deadlines are October 1st and February 1st for the fall semester and spring semesters, respectively. You can turn them in on October 1st or on February 1st all the way till midnight on those days. And we don't have preferential points for turning something in early. So if you turned it in a week early, or you turned it in 2 seconds before the deadline, your score is going to be exactly the same. Does that make sense? Okay. But that said, I do recommend that you turn things in early just so you don't have the stress of having something go wrong at the last minute, which does happen quite frequently. So if something goes wrong, it's nice to be able to fix it before the time's up. So everything is available on our website. I will come back to that in just a minute. This is a downloadable form that you can get from our application website. That's a copy of the application, the online application in Microsoft Word format. So you can download it onto your computer or onto your iPad or your phone or something like that. And you can practice the application before you actually go submit the real one. So you can work the bugs out. You can see, oh, there's information that I need to go look up, and you can look it up and write it all out here. And what a lot of people will do is they'll fill this all in, and then they'll just kind of copy and paste onto the application form itself when they're ready to apply. It makes it quick and easy, and they are less prone to make mistakes on it that way. For students who are interested in research, this is a bulletin board outside of the ESS department office, and we try to keep things posted on there for current studies. Right now, there's not a lot on there, but there are times of the year when there's a lot of theses or dissertations from physical therapy or other things like that, where you see a lot of postings on there. And those are great ways for you to volunteer and to get some experience in research. You'll see also on that downloadable application form, the practice form, you can see all the clubs that we give you credit for joining. We don't put all UWL clubs, like the Cheese Lover Club won't count. But if you want to be in the pre-physical therapy club or the pre-physician assistant club or things like that, those clubs count wonderfully. There is an exercise science club. That's one of the highest level clubs that I would recommend. It goes right along with your major, and it covers a lot of great topics. And then over on the right side, you see these are certifications that you can get credit for on your application. So we don't allow just any certification. We want you to get credit for the ones that we have listed there. We ask for job shadow experience, which you see will allow up to 5 job shadows, and will allow up to 20 volunteer or work experience entrance items on here. That's sort of like the experiences you might have on a resume. We do have you do 2 narrative statements. There's question 1 and question 2 on the application, and you need to fill those out. And I recently talked with some folks in physical therapy who are involved in admitting students, and they were saying that's one of the really helpful parts of our application process, because you have to do something similar when you're applying to physical therapy school, and having a little experience on here helps you do a better job when you're applying for graduate admission. It's helpful to know that when we're grading these, we grade it in thirds if you're in the fitness track. So GPA is a third, your application itself is about a third, and your narrative statements are about a third. In the pre-professional track, GPA makes up about 75%, where your application and narrative statements combined makes up about 25%, which kind of balances or matches what you're going to see in the graduate school admission process. We tried to make those as close to what you're going to encounter in your future as possible. Some tips. Number 1, don't wait till the last minute. Students can apply at the last minute, and if you've got everything together, you'll do just fine. But I've encountered a lot of problems where people have tried to apply at the last minute and something went wrong. They couldn't submit their resume on Canvas properly, or there was some other issue. Their computer's hard drive went down and they lost their narrative statements, and now they don't know what to do. Stuff happens. So if you turn it in a week or 2 before the deadline, that's going to be really helpful to you. I talked about the practice application. The sophomore year application thing is mostly important if you've got a few semesters left. We want you to get in before that becomes a problem with getting into required courses. If, let's say you were a senior, but you weren't in the program yet, and you applied and didn't get in, then you'd have to say, okay, now I have to apply next semester, and you might not have any classes left. So you'd just be applying and maybe taking one class or something like that, which would be a big waste of your time. Um, and if you didn't get in that semester, you're only allowed 2 applications for admission. So that means you'd have to change your major. And that's happened a few times, and it's been really heartbreaking for everybody involved. So I do not want to see that happen to you. So if you can handle this in your sophomore year, if there's a problem in your sophomore year, there's still time to make changes and not devastate your career as a student. So if you change your major, sometimes it can take a couple years to finish a degree. You don't want to change your major when you're a senior, because that means you could be a 6-year bachelor's degree student. Okay, there is a policy in the College of Science and Health that you have to be admitted in a major by the time you finish your sophomore year, or by the time you hit 60 credit hours. So if you're in that boat and you're not admitted into the program yet, you're going to want to talk to me or to Mr. Hurling in the dean's office. One thing that some students will do is they'll double major in something, then they'll drop the second major once they get admitted. That's kind of a backdoor way, but it works. The other is you can get special permission from the dean's office to register for your next semester of classes if you're over 60 hours, but you're not yet admitted into a program. But you have to address this in one way or another, otherwise they won't let you register for classes. If you don't get in, come see me. That's the main thing. If you apply and you're not admitted, come talk to me. Come by my office. We'll sit down. I'll look at your application with you. I'll tell you exactly where the flaws or problems may be. And so if you decide to reapply, you won't make that mistake again, and you'll hopefully get right in. Alternatively, some students who don't get in decide, I don't want to do this anymore, and they change tracks. So if they were trying to get in the pre-professional program, they might switch over to fitness or vice versa. They might change majors. They might decide, no, I want to go to the psychology major or some other major on campus. Or they might decide, you know what, I'm going to go to Winona instead, or UW Oshkosh or something like that. So there are some changes that I've seen students make. The most effective one is if you just come see me and we can fix the problem and you can stay on track and stick with the class list that you've been working on the whole time. That's going to be the quickest path to graduation for you. If you do get in, it's helpful to know that students who are admitted into the exercise science program do really well. You're in excellent company if you get admitted. 97% of the students in the pre-professional track go on to graduation, or go on to graduate school rather, right after they've graduated. 97%. As far as I'm aware, that's the highest admission percent in the nation for a program like this. So you're in good company. You've picked a program wisely, because it's got a lot of successful students going through it. Of those who decided to work for a little while before they go to graduate school, 100% were finding employment in their field within 6 months. Same is pretty close to being true for fitness track. For those who try to get a job right away, 100% are finding jobs in their field within 6 months. About 18% go on to graduate school. That number is climbing all the time. And in the fitness track, you're required to do an internship. About 75% of our interns get a job offer while they're on their internship. So it's a great transition from being a student to being a professional. Going on that internship usually is associated with a job offer. After you're admitted, it's important to keep building your resume. Don't just get admitted and take your classes, but do other activities along the way. Field experience will help you to do some other activities. If you're in the fitness track, the internship will help you to do some other activities that build your resume nicely. But doing clinicals and labs helps you. Getting involved in research, doing additional volunteerism, getting jobs, and a lot of people will do study abroad, and all of those things look really, really good on applications and on resumes. So I encourage you to stay engaged with those extracurricular activities as you go. Those of you who are looking for jobs or looking for volunteer experiences can look at the bulletin board just outside of my office. Again, that's 129 Mitchell Hall. And I keep job postings and recent internship announcements posted on that bulletin board. And just to the left, what you don't see there is there are some binders that I have posted on the wall. And those have the older announcements, older job and older internship announcements, many of which still have openings in them. So you can still look at the old ones and reach out to those people. There are a lot of forms that you may want over the course of your degree. Course substitution forms are available in the dean's office. Course override and time conflict form, that's actually the same form. There's just different sections that you fill out for overrides or time conflicts. Those are available in the ESS department office. Add drop slips are available at the ESS office. Change of program form, most people do that online, but there's a green change of program form that you can get at the dean's office if you'd rather do it on paper. And if you're going to graduate soon, you want to fill out the intent to graduate on Wings. And if you want to have transcripts sent someplace, you can also request that on Wings. Some graduation requirements that are helpful to know. You've got to fill out your intent to graduate on Wings. If you're interested in going through commencement, filling that out puts you on the list for commencement automatically. And if you want to change your commencement time or some other details about your commencement, you can see Mr. Hurling in the dean's office. He can help you through a petition for early commencement. So let's say you were planning on doing an internship in the spring semester, but then after that internship, you just wanted to stay there and work and didn't want to have to come all the way back to UWL. And let's say that that internship was in California. You might not want to travel all the way back to Wisconsin for a graduation ceremony. In those situations, Mr. Hurling works with students so that they can go through the December graduation ceremony, even though they won't be finished until May. Does that make sense? So he can help you with those kinds of things, and that can be really nice for you so that you get to enjoy the commencement and wearing the cap and gown and going through all of that stuff, getting photos and all those wonderful things. And your family can also see you go through all of that, which can mean a lot to them. That concludes the formal part of this presentation. If you would like to look at the Exercise Science website, that QR code will take you right to it. So if you've got your cell phone, you could snap a picture of that and follow that QR code right to the website. Again, on that website, you can click a tab that tells you all about application to the program. So it gives you all the information and has all the links that you need to do the online application and to do the workshop. At this point, I'd like to open it up for any questions that you guys might have. So anybody have anything they're curious about with the program? Nothing jump into mind yet? Okay, well, I will wrap things up then. And what you can do if you've got a question you want to ask, but you don't want it to be part of the presentation or ask it in front of everybody, you can come down and ask me one-on-one. I'll stick around while any of you are remaining. But for the rest of you, thank you so much for coming, and come by my office anytime or email me if you've got any additional questions. Thanks again.